Hi guys, Kaiser here, and welcome back to Age of Empires 3. Today's video is focused on a particular topic. How do you survive rushes in Age of Empires 3? I think that this is a question that is definitely worth talking about because rushes are one of the most popular strategies in AoE3. It is very easy to end the game in the Second Age, and some civilizations are very effective at doing it. And if you don't have a strategy, if you don't have a response in mind, it's really easy to get steamrolled. I know I've been steamrolled in several of my AoE3 games, and it leaves you wondering, what was I even supposed to do to fight back against a rush? And I had a game here that I think is really good for spotlighting this question. And I think this is a really fun one for a couple of reasons. First off, just because of who I am Kaiser Gaming, I consider myself an average age player. I am by no means the best of the best when it comes to AoE3, so I think it's fun to look at this question and, you know, kind of try to answer it from that perspective. I'm not someone who's the best of the bunch telling you how to survive a rush, right? I also think that it's useful because in this particular game, my strategy was not age to aggression. I didn't out-army my opponent. I know Russia's very often played that way, but I like to play Russia in a more economic mid to late game focus. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But I sort of had to adapt to what I was seeing on the map, so I think that's pretty fun. So, I will say this. I am definitely not the best AoE3 player, so some of you watching this may be better than me. If you've got questions about how to survive an AoE3 rush, or maybe you're, again, a pro player who thinks they have some answers and some advice and tips they want to share, leave those answers in the comments below. I would love for this video to kick off some conversations in the comments about how you survive different kinds of rushes and what your strategies should be. Now, with that in mind, let's go ahead and get settled into this particular match. I'm in the blue, again, playing as the Russians, and my opponent to the south in the red, Jean, playing as the Haudenosaunee. Okay. Early on, I don't know what his strategy is, and so I'm playing in kind of what I consider to be a fairly standard Russia strat, or my typical Russia strat, which is a little different than normal. Pull up my deck. I am practicing with an economic-focused build. The idea is you get up distributivism in the first stage to help out with the early wood eco. You get to mark it up right away so that you can afford hunting dogs. You get a lot of food going in. And once you hit age 2, now you may need to get out some military pressure. So I've got the Streltsy, and I've got the Cossacks cards ready. But the heroes of this deck are these two right here. Spice Trade causes your villagers to gather food even faster. And then Medicine causes your villagers to train faster and cheaper. Now that's on top of Russia's bonus, which already is giving you a bulk discount for buying 3 villagers at once. Right? So you combine those two things, and you get very cheap villagers producing faster than normal. That means that you're going to have a massive economy going. And that was my game plan. Go into the Third Age, go with the bishop politician, which will give me the second town center, and just out-boom my opponent with a massive economy. I do get a little lucky here. My opponent had a weak explorer. I was able to knock him out. Yeah, this won't work, but I'll have to retreat back and forth in order to get this treasure. 100 XP, which is pretty nice. But meanwhile, my opponent, let's look at Jean real quick. He just hit the Second Age at 4.5 minutes, and this is my first clue a rush is coming. Okay, so at this point, I'm realizing I need a new game plan. And I think this is fortunate for me in that I picked up the Quartermaster as my chosen card. And the Quartermaster, if I'm remembering correctly, is the one that releases 400 wood into your economy. That's big, I think. when it comes to selecting a politician, that's one of the most important parts of surviving a rush. Do not pick a politician that gives you long-term bonuses. Pick a politician that will give you a quick infusion of power right away. Yeah, here we go. 400 wood, ready to pick up. And that's going to help me throw down buildings immediately. That's going to help me afford units immediately. And it's that sort of immediate focus that you need to make in order to survive a rush. Right? So you don't want to pick, like, for example, and I'm forgetting the name of the politician, but there is the strategist, or the logistician. I think it's the logistician. What he does is he gives all Russian blockhouses an additional +10 population limit. You know, it's like they support more population, which is great in a long-term, you know, long-focused game. That's a really awesome politician. But in this situation, I need resources now. Okay. Now, the next thing that I'm going to do, I'm a little worried here. As I move these villagers out and I start collecting deer, I'm thinking, boy, I could get hit at any moment. And I think I'm a little lucky that Jean is sort of backing up, massing his tomahawks. Let's flip over to his view real quick. He's shipping Kree allies, so he wants these skirmisher units, the Kree allies, to back up the Haudenosaunee tomahawks, and together they are going to try to raid against my economy. Here we go. 9 and 9, 18 units on the field. Prioritize. Now, this is sort of, and this is not something I've quite figured out yet. There's an interesting dance that you have to play in Age of Empires 3 where you cannot rely on defensive buildings to push back and attack. Blockhouses for the Russians, and I really love the blockhouses because they combo as a barracks and a lookout, or a watchtower, whatever it's called. I think they're really great. They can definitely help me hold this location, and we'll see right here. He's starting his attack. I'm picking up militiamen. And I'm able to hide my villagers in the blockhouse. So that gives me a little bit of time to keep my villas alive. Don't rely on defensive buildings, because if I were just relying on the blockhouse by itself, as you can see, it's going down. But I fortunately have some Strelets out. I have some militiamen on the way. He is losing a lot here. But if I spend my whole eco just hiding in the town center, hiding in the blockhouse, while his eco is working, he will gather an advantage. He will keep pushing with more units and win. Yeah, here we go. And this is big. This is Quartermaster saved me here because I have enough wood to build a second blockhouse, which continues to... It's placed strategically, so it's near the town center, so they can support each other. 2 lines of fire. And it is protecting gold and wood and food. It's keeping him from disrupting my economy. And keep producing units. You must have an army. Unlike Age of Empires 2, in AoE3, you know, in this early game period, you cannot just throw down a couple of watchtowers or a castle and expect that alone will just stop an assault in its tracks forever. It may be enough to, again, support, military units and, kind of give you an edge in that way if you play your cards right. But you need military to withstand an assault. Fortunately, I'm keeping my economy going at home. And you can actually see I just picked up the Boyar's card, which will give my Strelets an additional attack and HP. It's pretty great. I had picked up my twin superstar cards. Medicine and Spice Trade are really going to help me keep my eco going. This is a threat right here, the Kanya Horsemen. So these Strelets are skirmishers. They are very weak. cav. Now, one card that is in my deck, and I do suggest looking at your civilizations cards and seeing if you have any cards that help in the defense. Something like, ships several watchtowers in Age 2. Or in Age 1, this is a good one, Town Militia. It increases the attack at the town center, and you can call militiamen a second time. Militiamen are absolutely fantastic at repelling an early assault. They often can't do it by themselves, but between a second round of militiamen and an improved town center attack, and whatever units you're able to build, that's useful. And here's the good news. All right, while this has been going on, I've been I need to keep my economy going. Right, and I've been aware of that. I'm not letting his attacks distract me from producing villagers, keeping them working. I don't think my economy is balanced in the way I'd like. He's been disruptive, but he's not end of the game for me. And at this point, I think I finally more or less repelled the assault. I now have 36 vills to Gene's 16. So I would say I'm in a really good position right now. And here's part 2. I think the first thing you got to be aware of, if you're being rushed, recognize that your opponent is putting a lot of resources into that rush. So if you keep a calm head, there's a chance that you could absolutely come out ahead in the long run, right? He's putting all of his gas into that attack, and so he's got nothing left behind. The second thing is, if he goes into an early rush, he very likely has no defenses at home. He's got a weaker economy and a vulnerable economy. So, if you're struggling against your opponent, if you're able to get out even 1 or 2 horses, 1 or 2 cavalry units, and get them into the economy, you can be exceedingly disruptive. Here we go. He has put everything into the Huron mantlets, and you can take a look. Not doing so hot on the food front. Not really on the wood front either. I do make a mistake here. I decided to build an outpost right in the center ground. My thought was I can use this for vision. I can see what's coming. But, I already knew these guys were out here, and instead I just throw a bunch of wood. The nice thing is I left my cav just standing at the deer, just in case. And sure enough, they picked up several kills here. Went from 16 to 12 vills. He has no food for more villagers. This is really great. He calls GG, but he's not actually going to resign yet. He wants to put it all in one last push. Call the GG back, because I don't want him to surrender without, acknowledging his GG. Something else that you need to do, and I've made this mistake several times, that's why I say this. Do not be too quick to tech up into the 3rd age if you still need to fight in the 2nd age. Put your resources into where the battle is, not where you wish the battle were, where the battle was. I'm sending one of my favorite cards. I don't always get to play it when I play Russia, but the 11 Vasa allies. Swedish skirmishers that get improvements with every kill. They're really powerful skirmishers, and I like having these elite mercenary units kind of behind my waves of cheap Russian infantry. I think it's a really nice combination. Alright, it knocks out the barracks. Good for him. And I sort of have the feeling, even here when I see that this is all he's got, I feel pretty good about this. Yeah, and it's falling apart for him. And he decides to call the GG. And that is that. Now, I would suspect that to a certain extent, your playstyle will have to change depending on who your opponent is. And that may be one of the more important things about surviving a rush, is knowing your opponent. Take the time to look at their deck. You can do that by hitting this button right here. Not that one. Hitting this button right here, clicking on their flag. You can take a look at their decks in the middle of the game. See what they've got coming. Know your civilizations. What kind of strategies do the Haudenosaunee typically use, or the Ottomans, or whatever. So know your civ, know your opponent's civ. Pick politicians and focus your resources for immediate benefits, not long-term strategies. You need to push back the rush and get that economic advantage going by surviving the rush. And then I think the other thing was, where possible, try to get up some cavalry, just even 1 or 2 units, and go in and disrupt your enemy's economy. Don't allow the war to take place exclusively on your own home front. Because if it does, there's a good chance, even if you're pushing back your opponent more often than not, the damage is taking place on your side of the battlefield, and that means it's your economy getting disrupted. He's allowed to, do whatever he's doing back at home for free. Right, so definitely easier said than done. I have certainly lost my fair share of games against rushes, but I thought this was a lot of fun and a really good game to kind of kickstart that conversation. So leave your comments and your questions below. Let me know what you think. What kind of rushes do you struggle with? How do you deal with them? What are your strategies for fighting back against rushes? And what are your favorite civilizations to play, either to fight a rush, fight off a rush, or to initiate one? Let me know in the comments below. For now, this is the Iron Kaiser, signing off. Have a great one out there.